Namaste, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everybody, those who are watching us. As you know, UNCDF has been working in financial inclusion for more than 50 years. This year, we are partnering with Singapore FinTech Festival in a series of events across multiple countries to achieve the common goal of building inclusive digital economies and financially resilient societies. With these events, spread across Africa, Asia, Europe, and the Pacific, we plan to develop a global community that shares lessons with each other on specific topics linked to the UNCDF strategy of leaving no one behind in the digital era. In Nepal, we have organized this event where we will discuss about agriculture as being mainstay of the economy in Nepal, where nearly two-thirds of the population is engaged. We also have one discussion on MSMEs and fintechs. For this Nepal event, in conjunction with Singapore FinTech Festival, I would like to invite respected Governor of Nepal Rashtra Bank, Mr. Mahaprasad Adhikari, the Central Bank of Nepal Governor, for keynote speech. Over to you, Mahaprasad Adhikari, sir.
Thank you, Sharji. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening from Kathmandu. It is a great pleasure for me to participate virtually at Singapore FinTech Festival on the theme Building Inclusive and Resilient Economies in the Digital Era. I am aware that since its commencement in 2016, Singapore FinTech Festival has been very successful in bringing together content from Innovation Hub and FinTech Showcase around the globe to provide a forum for exchange ideas and also for providing networking opportunities with industry leaders. For making this happen, Monetary Authority of Singapore is much appreciated for organizing such a pertinent event on an annual basis. I understand that such event helps showcase FinTech activities and are very useful not only to such players, but also to other stakeholders who are working on broader economic area. I would also like to thank UNCDF for organizing parallel events in various countries, including Nepal, and providing me the opportunity to be a part of this event. As Nepal is an agro-based economy, with the sector contributing almost 28% of GDP and livelihood for two-thirds of its population, the theme for discussion today on resilience of local food system leading to food security is very much relevant. In the wake of COVID-19, economies around the world are recovering from first wave of this shock and are gearing up with the fear of a resurgence, which will be reflected in the deadly second wave. In this regard, we are fortunate that we have so much of digital technologies available now to minimize the pain of this shock. Ladies and gentlemen, as highlighted in the Sustainable Development Goal adopted by United Nations in 2015, a sustainable food system lies at the heart of this call and thus demands for major transformation in agriculture and food system in order to end hunger, achieve food security, and improve nutrition by 2030. As proclaimed by the United Nations Food and Agriculture Organization, to realize the SDGs, the global food system needs to be reshaped to be more productive, more inclusive of poor and marginalized populations, environmentally sustainable and resilient, and able to deliver healthy and nutritious diet to all. These are complex and systemic challenges that requires the combination of interconnected actions at the local, regional, and global levels. To facilitate achieving this transformation in general, the role of technology is paramount in supporting this process as it enhances production and productivity growth through investment, pricing, marketing, and payment, among others. Among technologies, it is felt FinTech can have a far-reaching impact on agriculture and food system. When we talk about agriculture, we also talk about smooth information and financial flows between producer and ultimate customers. In this regard, FinTech can play a very crucial role in the process. For example, e-commerce platforms help farmers sell their products. However, these are generally available only in urban areas. With these opportunities are yet to reach to rural farmers. Also, the supply chain for the agriculture products has to be readjusted with both investment and the farmers having to be empowered to benefit from e-commerce platforms. Also, the key roles of FinTech in agriculture are to facilitate agriculture financing, insurance, digital payments, information, food security, and investment opportunities. Ladies and gentlemen, the above description poses some challenges. I feel the most prominent issue is regulating and supervising those FinTech companies. Given that FinTech is broad and cover a functioning of the most of the financial sector, there may be confusion as to the appropriate regulator. That is, will it be under the purview of regulators such as the central bank, financial supervisory authority, insurance authority, or a capital market authority, or will it be by technology authority, such as telecom authority? Whatever be the limitation or the issue at the regulator's end, our role should be to encourage innovation, to promote innovations. Given the dynamic nature of technology, I'm sure that we should expect to see further innovations in the near future. However, we are also careful that the growing digital divide does not grow further to leave people in semi-urban and rural areas behind. Ladies and gentlemen, in Nepal, we have been promoting digital payments. This is in support of the government of Nepal's expression for having digital Nepal framework and embarking on an ambitious journey to transform Nepal through digitalization of the government, economy, and the society. Digital Nepal framework envisions the country transforming real sector activities in agriculture, health, education, energy, tourism, finance, and urban infrastructure to having digital foundation. The overarching ambition is to use digital technologies to support the vision of prosperous Nepal, happy Nepali, and position Nepal for the next phase of its economic and social development. Nepal has enacted an overarching law, Payment and Settlement Act, which clearly states the objective to regulate, supervise, inspect, and oversee to develop a secure, healthy, and efficient payment system of the country. Similarly, there is an established National Payment Board, where the cross-cutting issues of the financial sector we discuss. Coordination of key regulators encourages a safe and sound payment system and ensures public confidence and trust over the payment system. We, as a public sector stakeholder, have a crucial role to play in the development of digital economy. Nepal Rashtra Bank, the Central Bank of Nepal, is committed to develop the digital ecosystem. Connecting FinTech with agriculture and food system is not only about digital, it has social, cultural, and economic dimensions. In addition to requirement of Government of Nepal for facilitation G2P, social payments directly to the bank accounts of a concerned individual, the bank has initiated several activities such as a policy to issue specialized Kisan card, directed lending to agriculture sector, policy to promote agriculture bond, and promoting microfinance. These are some of the initiatives taken by Nepalese Central Bank for the promotion of agriculture financing. I'd like to mention further that a real-time gross settlement system for promoting faster settlement of a payment to the payment ecosystem is also in operation. To build inclusive digital economy, Nepal is focusing on expanding digital infrastructure to cover all geography and people. Considering the geographic terrain with difficulty in access, it's been challenging to bring rural population into mainstream of financial system. We are also working to improve digital and financial literacy activities to empower vulnerable population in the country, with one of the NRB's target group being irregular income earners, the farmers. We have also initiated activity to empower the financial consumer through financial consumer protections. Investment and financial market infrastructure from both public and private sector is encouraging these days. At the same time, the number of private sector players coming into the market to provide alternative mode of payments are increasing. The most disruptive event now happened with the unprecedented health crisis of COVID-19. The use of technology, especially on payments and settlement via online or a digital mode, is remarkable during the current difficulties. Considering our agro-based economy, it has become very important for us to connect digital technology with agriculture and food system. We have thousands of agricultural cooperatives operating in rural area with millions of members who are doing savings and credit activities also with cooperatives. We also have impressive penetration of microfinance institutions. These grassroots level financial institutions need further integration with the banks. With advancement in FinTech, there are some impressive innovation put in place, which can help in integration. To nurture these, we are also discussing the initiating regulatory sandbox in Nepal. This will allow for the safe testing and regulation of those FinTech activities, which can have potential expansion to the whole of the region. I'm glad that the subsequent panel discussion today will discuss on some of the pertinent aspects of the connecting real economy with FinTech. I'm sure that the enhanced knowledge will be shared on FinTech, which we all can benefit from. I would like to wish a grand success to Singapore FinTech Festival, and would also provide thanks for inviting me to deliver the opening keynote remarks. I wish you all a very productive evening. Thank you all for your kind listening. Thank you.
Thank you, respected Governor, Mr. Adhikari. You highlighted about importance of agriculture in Nepalese economy. Our first panel discussion today is on SOC responsive local agriculture and food system. And for this panel discussion, I would like to invite Ms. Sabham Shivakoti, who is Agriculture Secretary in Gandaki Province, Nepal, Ms. Moushumi Shrestha, who is Director at Shreenagar Agro, and Mr. Surendra Joshi, who is Resilient and Livelihoods Specialist at Integrated Center for Mountain Development, ICIMOD. Welcome you all. As you know, agriculture in Nepal is vulnerable to climate-induced shocks such as food, flood, landslides, earthquake, glacier lake outburst flood, pests and diseases. The panelists will discuss the main challenges and means to mitigate impact of shocks to vulnerable population. So I would like to start with Ms. Shivakoti, who is Agriculture Secretary of Government of Nepal at Gandaki Province. Ms. Shivakoti, tell us about yourself and your work. What are the specific climate-induced shocks to agriculture and food system in the region you work?
Okay. Namaste, everyone. Good afternoon from Nepal. First of all, thank you, UNCDF and Singapore FinTech for having me here as a panelist. I'm very pleased to be here. I'm Sabham Shivakoti, and I'm working as the province secretary in one of the 7 provinces in Gandaki province. And as you know that with the new federal structure, there are 3 tiers of the government. And while we deal about the agriculture and local food system and how these 3 tiers of the government respond to it is very important. So as of now, it's been 3 months that I have joined as a secretary in the province, and through various discussions, I have come out with the preliminary findings that Gandaki, like any other provinces, is very vulnerable to the climate change related shocks. Especially the rainfall pattern here is changing. Very excessive rainfall during certain part of the month, which affects the production, the crops. And also there is a increasing trend of this hailstone, which is very critically affecting the farmers. Similarly, other challenges, because we have 3 distinct regions here, very few plain area in Gandaki province, but mostly hills and mountains. So that makes it even more vulnerable, because Nepal itself is very vulnerable in terms of climate change, comes 13th in the rank, but Gandaki itself is not aloof from these shocks. So these are some of the shocks, and also another emerging is the incidence of pests and diseases and the changing temperature. So our experiences has shown that in the mountain area where we are growing apple, which is major crop here, we have seen that there is the shift of the domain where the crops, the apple was being grown previously. So similarly with the citrus, which is major fruit here, the production domain is slowly changing, and this is putting pressure on the farmers because they are not able to grow the same quality of the crops. So these are the visible changes that we have experienced. And apart from that, there is the other rising temperature. There is new pest and diseases emerging, and the local farmers, they are not able to cope with these changes, which is gradual, which is visual, but there is very little adaptability by the farmers so far. So these are some of the challenges, I would say, in the province.
Thank you, Ms. Shivakoti. I would like to move to Dr. Surendra Joshi, who manages Agriculture Value Chain Program at ICIMOD as well. Mr. Joshi, can you tell us about yourself and your work? Particularly, how do you see shocks that pose threat to agriculture and food systems in Nepal?
Thank you, Saroj, and good afternoon to all the participants and the panelists. Let me, express my sincere gratitude to UNCDF for offering this opportunity to be in the panel in such a important, event and to discuss the important topic. As you mentioned, I am with ICIMOD, International Center for Integrated Mountain Development, and we work in the 8 countries from Afghanistan to Myanmar for improving the well-being of the people in mountains and also the conservation of environment in mountain. So my work is more about resilient livelihood developments. And our approach is to come up with a basket of options to reduce the risk that are posed by the climate change and the other factors. So as you know, ICIMOD has come up with the Hindu-Kush-Himalaya assessment, engaging more than 350 researchers and practitioners in the region. And that report says that this region is undergoing rapid change. Even if we manage to maintain 1.5 degrees Celsius increase in temperature, this region will have 2.1 degrees Celsius temperature. So it has in the Himalayas and the Karakoram region. So 0.7 degree more than in other parts of the world. And this has implications to the snow melt, to the glaciers. And as you know, Nepal's agriculture is rain-fed agriculture. And our irrigation is mostly from the stream flow. And the water availability in the stream and the river will have a huge implications with the rapid snow melt and glacier lake outburst. And the major risk which Ms. Shivakoti already highlighted, the extreme weather events, too much, too little water, landslides, glacial lake outburst. These are the major risks. And then the climate change induced risks, like the floods, the long dry spells, drought. So our work is a kind of, more at a knowledge generation, learning, and then working at the interface of the policy, science, and practice. Getting evidences communicating those evidences in the form of piloting, and then communicating with the policymakers so that there are, evidence-based policies to address those climate shocks and the risks. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Joshi. Yeah, very pertinent that you mentioned about all the works that ICIMOD is doing on research and knowledge generation. Now I would like to move to our other panelist, Ms. Moushumi Shrestha, who manages a private agriculture farm called Shreenagar Agro Farm. Moushumi ji, tell us about yourself and your work, particularly how climate-induced shocks are threatening your business.
Yeah, thank you, Saroj ji, for giving me an opportunity to speak few words from the side of the private sector. And thank you, Singapore FinTech and UNCDF for organizing this wonderful program. As far as my background, myself is concerned, and I'm an economic honors with an MBA, and I was a development practitioner in the field of climate change, market system development, renewable energy, sustainable agriculture, energy, and nutrition, and worked with high NGOs like SNV Practical Action and donors at regional level. And now I am a social entrepreneur working together with my husband in Shreenagar Agro Group. Shreenagar Agro Group consists of farm division with breeder farm, commercial farm, hatchery. And Shreenagar Agritech consists of feed division for poultry, cattle, goat, piggery. And then we have another wing called Sri Kishan Innovation Hub, which is the knowledge wing of Srinagar, disseminating innovative practices in agriculture. And we try to compile different kinds of innovative learnings and then try to disseminate it to the farmers at the grassroots level. And we are also running the training and skill development school through this wing. And Golden is the brand that we sell as our products and the products that we collect from our farmers. And we try to sell it through our Golden Fresh Mart and online platforms. So, and Sreenagar Agri Center is one-stop solution for the farmers, where we try to supply chicks, feed, technical assistance, access to finance, insurance, and market linkages as a one-stop solution to the farmers. So today, Sreenagar is working in an integrated model from farm to fork. So now, coming back to your question, how the climate-induced shocks are threatening our business. In total, agriculture is responsible for 15% of the world's greenhouse gas emission, and nearly 70% of these comes from animal sector. So therefore, companies like ours need to be really careful from now onwards to take corrective measures to mitigate these climate change reactions and actions. So when we do the climate audit in our company, we look into 4 categories. It's like, what are our farm inputs? What is the animal productions, farm logistics, and farm outputs? So when we talk about farm inputs, it's the feed, especially the raw materials that we use for our feed, and it's mostly maize and soya. So we see that when there is a strong climate impact and changes, the raw material supply is highly affected, and it affects the production of our feed. And another thing is the water. So we have to be really careful about the quality and availability of the water when we supply these waters to our animal. So when there is a climate change, we see that there is an effect on this. And another input is the energy. So if there is no regular supply of energy, then we have a problem in farm management. And then comes the production of the animal production. So due to the climate change, the major variance that we are observing is in the temperature, especially when there is a high temperature, there is a huge heat stress among the animals, especially on the chickens and on the cattle, so which is affecting on a high mortality. So 2.4% of loss is absorbed through the heat stress, which is impacting on the production. And we have been also observing the behavioral changes in our birds and cattle. So because of this, there is a 75% of drop in the reproduction, and we see lots of panting among the birds. So when there's more panting among the birds, more energy is being used by the birds, which means more feed intake than the normal. So these are the few implications that we have been observing among the birds and cattle, so which is directly affecting the production. And then beside the heat, there is an equal threat when there is a decrease in temperature, when there's when it's a very cold weather. So we have been observing a high respiratory illness problems and spread of a disease among the animals. So these are the few issues related to the animal production. And then comes the farm logistic issues. When we talk about the farm logistic issues, it is the transportation, manure management, and when there is a heavy rainfall than expected, when there's a flood, we always face problems in transportation. We cannot transport our animals and milk on time. And there is a huge problem of manure management. It becomes very filthy and dirty. So it affects the whole environment of our farm. And then comes the farm outputs. So because of all these reasons, when there is a problem in production, when the input cost becomes high, when there's a problem in logistics, definitely the market price of the products becomes high. And then who suffers is the consumers. And even the farmers have the production cost increases and the product prices increases. And there is a shortage in supply. So the prices of the goods increases. So then it affects the whole supply chain of the food. So in summary, what I'm trying to say is that the companies like us tend to think that climate change is not a big issue. We being an agricultural company in agriculture sector is not contributing much to a climate change, and all we think that way. But climate change, directly or indirectly, it's very much highly affecting the production. So we have to be very careful and start thinking from today. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Shrestha. Indeed, climate change is affecting us all, and you gave a very good practical sort of implications of climate change to your business. Now I would like to move to Secretary Ms. Shivakoti. Can you give us some examples of government programs that address adaptation to climate change in agriculture sector?
Okay, as our earlier speaker elaborated on what could be the different effect on her business, and also that is similar with the agro, I think the agro food system as a whole. So how the ministry is responding, because we are firstly we're working directly with the farmers, smallholders. So our focus is on how they can best adapt the technologies, and how they can minimize their risk, and then how they can cope with the risk. So there are three areas. So we have different programs. Although in the national front, we have different policies in place, the various projects are in place. But coming to Gandaki, we have a very ambitious program. We call it as the Chief Minister Climate Smart Model Village Program. And that is now running in the third year. And in this program, we try to assess the climate risk in the different municipalities. So based on the climate risk criteria, we try to come up with the program and planning, the work plan, where the farmers are supported in various ways so that they can adopt some of the technologies and also minimize their risk. Another area is, so in those villages, we adopt different type of climate smart agriculture practices, use of renewable energy for drying the products or for the solar irrigation. Those are some of the examples. And apart from that, we have also been responding farmers, we are affected by these climate shocks through our emergency fund program. It's like we support in the recovery program after those severe climate shocks if the farmers faces. And another area is that we have tried to take the farmers on board through the agriculture insurance program. The federal government has already announced 75% premium on the agriculture insurance, and the Gandaki province has topped it up with 25% premium, so making the agriculture insurance free for the farmers in a way. These, and also we're trying to educate the farmers about the possible risk and how they can mitigate, and also trying to impart them with the information on the early warning system through the agriculture weather predictions. And so these are some of the initiatives we have been trying to come up with. But we also have to focus on the thing that because by the climate change, when the farmers become vulnerable, and then there are other shocks which makes them further vulnerable. For example, there could be the risk of the market, the price fluctuation, and then if they are not able to adopt the technology that increases the production, so there's a production failure there. So other complementary activities and income generation activity has to be focused equally, because only if they have the money to invest, then they will be able to better adapt the technologies and also invest in the mitigation measures. So we kind of when we talk about what government is doing, so it is kind of a holistic approach. How best we can reach to the farmers. So the support is through the technology, through the financial products, and also trying to bring them to the market through the other digital, bringing the private sectors on board. We're basically working on more on the holistic approach to address the climate change related shocks.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Shivakoti, for touching upon very important sort of aspects. Apart from the natural shocks, there are economic and market shocks as well. Now I would like to move to Dr. Joshi from ICIMOD. As we know that ICIMOD is a knowledge organization, I wanted to ask him, how can we continuously generate knowledge on impact of climate change in agriculture and help policymakers and other stakeholders to address the risk in a timely manner? Over to you, Dr. Joshi.
Yeah, thank you for a very pertinent question. So ICIMOD is a knowledge and regional learning center. We try to, generate multi-tier knowledge, which include, the understanding the risk and the vulnerability at the local level. What are the community perceptions? Because the risk vary from farming system to farming system, depending on the altitude, depending on the the geographic regions. For example, the yak herders in the high mountain area have a different challenges than the maize grower in the plains or in the mid hills. So first thing is we try to understand what are the risks at various levels. The second tier is about the scientific evidences. What are the historical trends? What could be the projections? What could be the future risk? And then the third is what could be the simple and affordable solutions that can be demonstrated and piloted to reduce those risks and to cope with the changing climate or the climate-induced disasters. So these are the different tiers where ICIMOD try to generate knowledge. And through different regional programs and initiative, what we also do is we do some pilots in the collaborative action research. Our collaborative action research are mostly with the government nodal agencies and the research institute. Then, the demonstrating the simple and affordable solution. Because if you see in the region, in India, China, Nepal, and many other countries, there are so many good practices, but they are not packaged and well communicated. So we try to package all these good practices and demonstrate based on the needs and the priorities of the communities at local level.
Yeah, Dr. Joshi, a follow-up question to that. How do you see intergovernmental collaboration in this region, in Hindu-Kush Himalaya region, which is very much vulnerable to climate change? Are there any cross-country programs that ICIMOD is implementing?
Yes, we do have the transboundary programs. And because if you see the climate change, air pollution, there are a number of issues, they don't recognize political and the geographic boundaries. The climate change is equally impacting this side and the other side of the hill or the, the country. For example, if you burn, the crop residue in the Punjab of India, the smoke can go to the other side of, Pakistan, as well as it can go to the atmosphere and impact, the winter fog or other things, Similarly, for example, the large cardamom. It is a crop which is grown in 3 countries, and the issues, whether the production fluctuation related issues or the marketing issues or the quality issues or positioning in the international market, what we try to do is, to bring these regional stakeholders together, sensitize them, the issue, and then try to come up with the common quality parameters or the common message to position those products in the international markets. So this type of efforts ICIMOD is also making as a regional intergovernmental organization.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Joshi. As Agriculture Secretary said earlier about economic or market shocks, I would like to ask Moushumi, what are the economic or market shocks as a business that you see, and what are the mitigation measures that you are thinking of as a private company?
As I said earlier, when it has lots of effect of climate change in the farm production, then ultimately there will be less production cost goes high, and then the processing cost becomes high. So the whole market system becomes disrupted, and then ultimately the market price of the product becomes high, so which affects the whole supply chain and the price of the products. And then who's going to suffer most is the vulnerable community. And when it comes to the vulnerable community, what they have to compromise is on the protein, and then they tend to consume less protein, and then it will affect on their diet, and the balanced diet is not provided enough to the children and to the elderly people and all. And then it has again link with the malnutrition, So when we look at it holistically from the market perspective, from production, so we have to really think how we should start applying the green food production and look into in detail from farm to fork strategy and come up with a strategy which could be very helpful to combat these challenges. So in our case, when you was just talking about the mitigation strategy, what we do in our company is do a climate audit from input to output level. And in our case, the big step that we have taken is on the proper manure management, especially when we are talking about the manure management, it comes at the storage level. The treatment that we need to do at the all the waste that comes out from the animal, and how we are spreading it, how we are drying it, and then ultimately how we convert that manure into an organic fertilizer or a biogas, which is a very good renewable energy. So so this is 2 things that we can come up from the good and proper system of a manure management, that is the organic fertilizer and the biogas. And then another thing that we are really looking into as a mitigation strategy is a proper feed input. So when we are giving a proper high quality feed to our animals, then output is always better. That is the FCR, feed consumption ratio, is always better. So if you look into the feed, the output, the data, the 1 cow in USA is equal to 5 cow in Mexico and 20 cow in Nepal. So what I'm trying to connect is this, like the production that gives from 1 cow in USA is equal to the production that gives from the 20 cows in Nepal. So why it is affected, why the milk production is so less in Nepal, it's all due to the quality of feed that we give to our cattle. So we have to be really the nutrition level that we give to our feed, the input that we use for making the feed, that is the raw material like maize and all, should be of a very high quality, so that the minimum input will give the maximum output and better output. So we have to be really careful and trying to see, and in our company we are trying to really see how we can really get the good FCR from the feed that we give to our animal. And then another thing that we are trying to look into is the waste management. So we are trying to set up a rendering machine in our plant, in our farm and factory. So when we talk about rendering machine, it is the machine that converts the hatchery waste, like the eggshells, the chicks and all, into a good protein input for our feed. So these days there is also a new trend coming up, using the insects as a protein for a feed, so these are very high protein, and we can really minimize the cost of our feed by using this protein. So we see that these technologies is going to be really helpful to produce a good high quality feed and also doing a proper good waste management. And then another thing that is of a really big concern in today's time is how to minimize the food waste. For 35% of the food that is being produced in this world today is being wasted. So we have to really see how we can really minimize the food waste and think of reuse and recycling. So all the food that's being wasted, if we can reuse that in some way with using a good technology into a good protein for the animal feed, will be a good mitigation strategy. And then also the packaging. So we have to really think keeping hygiene and infection spreads, minimizing infection spreads. We have to really think how we can really reuse and recycle the packaging. And then use of energy. So we have to really think how we can maximum use the renewable energy, especially for the heating of our birds and all. And then, yes, in our company, we are applying these few mitigation strategy, but I strongly feel that we need to really aware more farmers, more companies about this. And we are doing lots of awareness campaign and training and skill development packages for our farmers, and also integrating climate smart agriculture farming in our training packages, so that this awareness comes at all the farmers level and the collective effort comes out from this and the big change happens. So when you think of all these, some companies might think it's a huge cost, will the return come, will there be profit after using all these methods, so, but I feel that at one time it might be a cost, but in a long run it will be helping us to gain more profit, because it will ultimately help in increasing the production.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, thank you, Moushumi, for providing some of the mitigation measures and some of the shocks that you see, and the mitigation measures as well. Yeah, your one is a leading agriculture farm in Nepal, and that's good that you are able to deploy these mitigation measures. Since Nepal is comprised of very smallholder farmers, I would like to move to Secretary Ms. Shivakoti on what should be the priorities of public and private sector to protect vulnerable population, smallholder farmers from climate risks in agriculture to the population at a large.
Okay. I think as I explained earlier, because in Nepal the agriculture system is basically subsistence of nature, and there are a large number of smallholder farmers. So any kind of shocks, be it climate shocks or any other kind of shocks, hit them first. But despite that, these smallholders are still found resilient to some of these shocks, because with the practices they have been adopting their good practices they are already adopting. So when we work with them, we try to see that what are the good practices they are already adopting, so that we support to expand and scale up those activities. And in case of the practices that needs to be improved, we take the technology from, as mentioned by the ICIMOD colleague, that there are a lot of evidence is generated on what works best and where, because the problem varies in different agroecological region, the risk varies, and so has to be the responses. So based on those risk categories, we try to come up with the programs that is best suited to the smallholder farmers. So for that, it's not only the government that can work alone. So we are working with the other private sector, private entities, and also NGOs. So what we try to see here is one is on accessing and then responding the farmers through the technology. A lot of researches has research from NARC, Nepal Agriculture Research Council. They have brought a lot of good technologies, and other research institutions have also brought many good technologies. So we try to reach to the farmers with these technologies. And also how we can bring the private sector into this, because the marketing side is very weak, where this climate shock is more aggravated by other kind of shocks, as I mentioned. So we are trying to bring private sector to the farmers, so that there is a market linkage between the two, and also private sector can support them in developing and then bringing the technology. For example, when you talk about the solar irrigation, which is sustainable, climate friendly, and also found very effective. So if the private sectors can come to the farmers with these good technologies, I think we can help them in adopting those technologies and facilitating from our other financial support programs. One, and another is we work with other partners. For example, here there is Leeward is working wonderfully in the local food system. So how best they have been doing. So we adopt and we're working together with them. Similarly, we're trying to bring the agriculture university also, because the expert from the university, so that they can help us with identifying the better technologies, and also with the private sector, so that they have the contractual arrangement with the farmers in bringing the produce to the market. So the investments, I think from the private sector side, I think they should become with the more investment and more creating more market opportunities for the farmers. Whereas the government, through the government support, we more focus on the production aspect, on adopting introducing and helping in adoption of the newer technologies. So I think if working together is where we can have the synergic effect. And another issue that we have been facing now is because of the three tier of the government. There's a lot of issue with when we try to deliver the agriculture extension services. Also, there's a lot of challenges among the three governments also, because the local government is there in the place. They are the forefront, working with the farmers or other entrepreneurs. But the problem is that the capacity at the local level, the technical capacity, and because this is a new government now coming up, so there are a lot of other challenges that needs to be improved and worked at the local level also. So how best we the province government, the local government can be supported technically and through other means, that is also equally important. So I think working at the multi-sector level with the government, at three tier of the government, with the NGOs and the private sector, if together we can come, I think we can add value addition and help farmers with the better adoption.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Shivakoti. This is indeed very, very useful. You also mentioned about the digital technologies earlier. Now I would like to move to Dr. Joshi to understand a little bit. How can digital technologies be helpful in understanding and addressing risks in agriculture? Has ICIMOD been using these digital technologies in their pilot programs?
Yes, thank you, Saroj. Digital technology can really help in better preparedness of climate-induced hazards. And ICIMOD has been actively engaged in developing some of the innovative technologies. For example, if you see this, community-based the early warning system. So it is a very simple technology, and we have demonstrated in Bihar, in Nepal, Tarai, and now it has gone to Africa and many other countries. The practical action and others are also working. So it is a kind of, for the preparedness, this technology is really helping. Similarly, this, the landslides, ICIMOD with this using the geospatial artificial intelligence and in partnership with the NASA and other research institute, we are also making some kind of, the prediction of landslides, prediction of forest fire. So those technologies are available, and these are in the pilot stage, and we are doing this. Similarly, in our pilot site, we also try to promote these smartphones for crop advisory. Based on the microclimatic habitat requirement of the crop, one can get SMS message with the GeoKC and other private service providers. We have demonstrated this with our Resilient Mountain Solutions program and also other programs. Then also this market price information and also the volume that is required in the specific market, what could be the supply and demand in a particular market. That information can also be provided with this. And particularly during this lockdown and this pandemic situation, I think people are getting used to for the online shopping, for the digital payments, and many social media, even the Facebook, the group pages, they are helping people, to make use of these digital technologies to, match demand and supply.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Joshi. You touched upon very sort of important aspects of tracking the impact of climate change from a natural calamity point of view. I would like to ask Moushumi Shrestha on how and what digital technologies can be helpful for agribusiness in Nepal. She mentioned about a little bit in her earlier deliberation, but can you please elaborate a little bit more on those?
Thank you, Saroj. As this is a digital age, and I always say that we should really introduce digital technology in agriculture, especially to motivate youth and encourage youth to come into agriculture, because today's youth are very techno-savvy youth, and but whereas if they look into the agriculture field, they get very, they don't look at it as a positive, they don't look at it as a positive side to take it as a career. But when we link, digitization and agriculture together, I think the youth will be really motivated to get into the field of agriculture. So that's why I'm very positive and always pushing digitization in the field of agriculture. So another thing, as Kesabji mentioned, I strongly believe and feel that early warning systems, especially on the weather forecast, should be really well placed in all local level to district level and to the central level, especially to give forecast to the farmers about the weather. And we have also worked with the Department of Meteorology and Hydrology and at the district level, and with the practical action and with the few techno companies of Bangladesh to introduce this early warning system so that farmers get SMS. And our innovation hub also tried to collaborate with Bangladesh IT company to introduce this system for the sugarcane farmers, so that they get early warning on the weather, and they do a proper planning of the planting and harvesting and drying, so that they don't land up doing the harvesting and dry the produce when it's going to rain. So all these early warning forecast systems will really help farmers to do a proper planning. And another thing that we are trying to introduce in our farm is IoT, that's Internet of Things. It is a very simple technology. It's a sensor system that we install in our farm. So because farm is something, especially when we are dealing with poultry, cattle, we have to monitor it 24 hours. It's not like a 9-to-5 job, So it's something that we need to monitor it 24 hours. So sometimes it's really impossible. There'll always be some kind of human error. We can't always shout at our farm workers and say that you didn't monitor well, there's high mortality, this and that. We are really sometimes, get fed up of high mortality, and we don't know the reason why and all. So this kind of sensor system, proper CCTV connection system, we're going to introduce with the Research Institution of Australia, which they have developed, and we are going to introduce that in our farm, where the sensor will indicate us about the problem, the heat stress that the poultries are facing, or if there is a kind of a high humidity which will cause into mortality. So all these changes in the housing will be indicated in the sensor, and it will be connected to the computer of our farm manager, which will be monitoring through the computer. So these kind of simple technologies, I think, is going to really help us to do a proper farm management. And also another thing that we have introduced in our farm is a low-cost semi-automatic housing, which controls the temperature. Especially our farm is in Tarai, which is a very humid and hot climate area. So many of our birds die due to heat stress and all. So we have introduced a semi-automatic housing system. It's not a fully automatic with hi-fi AC and all. It's just a fan system that works, and it controls the temperature digitally. So which is giving a very good production, and we want to introduce that into many of the farms at the farmers level also, so that they can use this low cost technology and improve the production. And Kesarji already mentioned about the online market platform, where the farmers will also get an access to the market price, so that they get an bargaining power when they go and sell their produce to the suppliers or in the marketplace. So they can also get to see the current market rate and get the right price of their produce. So this, I think, is going to be a very helpful at the farmer level. And as social media is very famous, and every farmers are using Facebook and YouTube and all, we should be coming up with many farmers informations, making lots of YouTube videos, so that farmers have access to information in Nepali language, in the language they understand, because the visual training is very effective. And I feel that this kind of material should be developed as much as possible, so that we can disseminate this information to the farmers. And blockchain system, this is a buzzword today. And I think that if we introduce this well and connect from farm to fork, from production to consumer level, it will be very helpful, especially at the consumer level. They will know from where the product is coming, so that they can have the whole traceability of the product they are consuming, and it's a kind of a consumer assurance also. So these are the few technologies I think we can introduce easily. And we are also working with UNCDF to introduce this blockchain, so that we can trace our golden egg from which farm it is coming. So we are working on that together with one AgriClear company. And then another thing that we have lots of training manuals, but all the manuals are in the book form, and we are now converting those manuals into digital manuals, so that we can give online training. So this idea came after the COVID outbreak, So we used to conduct lots of farmers training, but we couldn't do the gathering with the farmers and all. Then we thought of giving online training to the farmers, and we got good response for these training programs, and lots of women participations was also there, So we were very encouraged, and now we are making all our training manuals digital, so that we can deliver lots of online training to the farmers. And another thing that we tend to really ignore is the quality of the water, So sometimes, like when we see lots of mortality or less production in the chickens and in the cattle, the farmers always tend to blame us, the feed quality is not good or this and that, but they don't realize that the water quality that they are giving to their animals are not good, So we are introducing this technology to test the water quality, especially in the collaboration with companies like Best Pani, Smart Pani, so that farmers can check the quality of the water and then indicate that what is wrong with that water and give the right pure water to their animals. So, and another thing is on the circular feeding model that we are trying to introduce into the aquaculture sector. especially for the fish, So people in our farming culture, the farmers are still using the traditional method of giving feed, just spreading the feed in the pond, not realizing whether the fish is hungry. Put the button on, and then the feed starts distributing, So this is the technology, which is also a very low cost technology, but very efficient. It helps the feed loss, and it also improves the water quality of the pond. So these are the few digital technologies we are using to
Thank you.
Our agribusiness model. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you,
sir.
Thank you, Moushumi. Very impressive. I was glad. I'm glad to hear that those technologies are being used in Nepal. Albeit it must be in a very small scale right now. But I hope that in future we will be able to spread it to benefit the smallholder farmers. Now we have come to an end of this panel discussion. It was a very enriching discussion actually, and thanks to you all. Now I would like to ask that if we have any questions, it doesn't appear that we have any question. Now I would like to invite Secretary Ms. Shivakoti to give a concluding remarks to this panel discussion. Ms. Shivakoti, over to you.
Okay, thank you, Saroj. Well, it's just when we have all the panels together and you have to give the concluding remark, it's very difficult, I must say. But yes, we had a very enriching session, definitely, because the keynote speaker set the stage on how agriculture and food system is very important for Nepal, and how this digitization, the digital payment system, need to be blended with it. He has emphasized on what are the regulations that need to be formulated, what have already been done in the Kisan card and some of the agriculture finance through the bond system in the agriculture bank. So these are already taking place in the national front. And also what has been shared by ICIMOD on what are the research areas that they have been working on and what are the evidence they are generating is very important. And we as a government entities, because we have the research organization, but still our research, when we have we use those evidences, we have the evidences from different research organizations that help us, in defining our program and policies. And of course, when Moushumi shared about her private sector, I mean, I would say that it's such a sustainable and very responsible business, I would say, because a lot of initiative is going on. And of course, whatever has been talked about in the digital and how we can blend the technical, financial, and this digitization together, it's very important. Government is already doing it. Government is already doing, because the national front, a lot of good initiatives has taken place in the digitization. There is the early warning system is in place, the marketing, the market intelligence, the market pricing system, early warning, and other the agriculture advisory services, they're already in place. But when I was sharing with that, Gandaki province, we as a province all are new, because this is our third year as the province, and many initiative has yet to be taken in the province. So we are learning. So we're learning from what I have from the experience from working in the federal government, that what are already good modalities there, and how we can bring the private sector in blending the technology need, the financial need, and the digitization. So together, I think we can help farmers in coping with those climate induced shocks and to adapt and make them more resilient. So with that, I thank you. Thank you for this opportunity, and to all the panelists. Thank you.